have to have it as different exhibits. So, okay, good. And we'll go through them and see what we have. And you have yours as well?
Yes, Your Honor, if I may approach.
Okay.
This is Exhibit 40 redacted.
Okay,
and,
just give it to Jamie.
the photographs that were in this exhibit.
The knives, right.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Great. We'll go through those, and if we need anything else, we'll let you know, okay?
And each of the excerpted recordings are on a separate audio file on the thumb drive, so if you'd like a separate, I understand you're saying you'd like a separate physical.
Just because, so we can have them numbered that way, correct?
Sure.
All right. I got to keep Jamie happy. Yes.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I just had one more issue that I'd like to approach about it.
Okay, sure.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. You can be seated. All right. Just a reminder, Mr. Depp, you're still under oath. Okay, sir?
Yes, yes,
All
Your Honor.
right. Cross-examination. All right.
Morning, everyone. I hope you had a nice weekend. Mr. Depp, we've talked about this a little bit, but you've testified that abuse can come in many forms, correct? Physical being one of them, right?
Yes, indeed,
Emotional,
indeed,
verbal,
indeed,
psychological abuse.
indeed. Some of those sort of flow into the others.
I'd like to talk, understood. I'd like to talk about some of that abuse. Can we pull up Exhibit 582, please? Your Honor, this is a recording, Defendant's Exhibit 582, that we will play the entirety of.
All right. Any objection to 582?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. 582 in evidence.
cigarettes out on someone else, you fucking have consequences for your actions. That's it.
Shut up, fat ass.
Yeah, you got me there.
Can you play that one more time, please, Michelle?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection. Move on.
Mr. Depp, when Ms. Hurd tells you in that recording to go put your cigarettes out on someone else, you don't deny that, but instead you simply say, shut up, fat ass. Is that correct?
I think that was another grossly exaggerated moment of Miss Hurd's. I did not put a cigarette out on her or throw a cigarette at her.
Let's pull up Exhibit 581, please. This is another recording that we'll play the entirety of, with your honor's leave.
Any objection to 581?
No objection.
581.
I fucked up and cried in my bedroom after I had dumped you a fucking week prior. A fucking week prior after you beat the shit out of me. And then a week later you show up at my doorstep in my room saying you want to say goodbye. Okay, say goodbye.
Oh, I said it?
Yes, you did say it. I'll go to the text messages so that we're clear on
Yes,
the tape.
because you'd said it before to me.
Okay. No doubt. But you did not say you're going to come over to say bye?
I made a huge mistake.
You didn't say that to me?
Huge mistake.
You didn't say that to me?
Well, I won't do it again.
What's the mistake then? Did you or did you not say you were coming over to say bye?
Can we please pull up Exhibit 598?
Is this another audio?
It is, Your Honor. And I will give the excerpts that we propose to play. And I'll say, Your Honor, it's a lengthy recording where...
Well, I already have 598A in evidence, so.
Right, and I just wanted to clarify, spoke with Ms. Myers this morning. We're gonna speak at a break. We're trying to be very careful about whether there's a third party on the tape. This is one where at the very end, someone else comes in. But Ms. Myers and I will speak, and we may be, to the extent your honor's agreeable, we may be agreeable to just entering the whole thing as evidence. But for now, since there's a very small portion at the end that we're not going to play of a third party, I'll just give you the excerpts if that works.
Well, then I need 598B, and I need
Yes.
to know what the time of the excerpts are, and,
We'll prepare that for you, Your Honor. Thank you.
well, I need it now, I mean.
I have the
Okay.
excerpts. So this would be 598B.
Okay.
And it's seconds 1 through 20. And then it's 30 minutes and 2 seconds through 31 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay. All right. Any objection to 598B then?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I meant what I said.
You of not being able to do...
No, I meant exactly what I said.
What did you say?
At least I'm not doing it behind your back. I'm telling you. You gave me shit that I was recording, and I said, yeah, I'm recording, but at least I'm telling you.
Okay.
And
so,
if you had asked me not to, I wouldn't.
well, record, huh?
Okay, so the next excerpt is 30 minutes and 2 seconds.
I'd die. Walking away is necessary. Is necessary, especially between you and I. It is of utmost importance because the next move, if I don't walk away or just go out for a little while, it's just gonna be a bloodbath, and like like it was on the island, of course, like it was, It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
Why be miserable? Can we just
if the options are there.
have some semblance of understanding for each other?
Please, can we? Because
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, hey, by the way, no one in their right mind is going to choose bloodbath over walking away. Obviously, if you're given the option between the two,
Then why has it been chosen so many times?
It's that snowball. It is not a distinct choice. Either one of us make at any discernible point.
No, it's stubbornness and it's all
You know, and
kinds
it
of shit.
builds, right? Like you build, I build, you know. It isn't like at one moment either of us sign a certificate of saying, or like sign the contract or say, okay, now a bloodbath. No. So acting as though there's a choice between the two is irrelevant. I'm not asking you to stay over having a bloodbath. I'm asking you, over walking away. I'm not asking you to have a bloodbath over walking away. I'm asking you to work it out over prolonging it and making it bigger.
Can you please pull up Defense Exhibit 161, which was admitted into evidence on Thursday, Your Honor, I believe?
Okay. Yes, it was.
Thank you. Now, that recording that we just heard, Mr. Depp, isn't the first time that you refer to an argument as a bloodbath. In fact, in this text exchange that we saw on Friday, when you inform Ms. Heard that there exists a book entitled Disco Bloodbath, and she asks you if it is about last Friday night by any chance, you say, "How can you make me smile about such a hideous moment? Yes, it is. Funny bitch." Did I read that right?
Certainly did, sir. Thank you.
Can we pull up Exhibit 586, please? Your Honor, the only, the portion of this exhibit that we would plan to play, it's a recording, is minutes 7:35 to 8:20.
Okay, but I already have a 586A.
So this would be 586B, if
735 to what?
8:20.
Thank you. No objection to 586B?
No objection.
All right, 586B.
Well, yes, you do, because you wouldn't have used that as a way to hit me. I was pouring my heart out to you. What do you do? Let me get it. Let me get it. Stab in here. That's what you saw, huh? You listened to me cry, and you're like, now I can get her. Is that what you think? You just do it without thinking. You do it without thinking, huh? You don't. Get him. Stab him when you can. You throw a swing when you can. And what win better than to win on the floor? Because that's when it's really good to hit someone.
Can you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 366? This is another recording, Your Honor, that we would propose to admit all of, although we will only be playing minute 320 through 338.
All right, so no objection to 366 in its entirety, is that correct?
That's correct, Your
All
Honor.
right, 366 in evidence. He's only playing part. Oh, plaintiffs, I'm sorry.
Can you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 396? Your Honor, portions of this were used on Thursday, so with your leave, we'd like to introduce this as 396B with the following excerpts. 2:44 and 0 seconds through 2:44 and 16 seconds. And then 2:49 and 30 seconds through 2:49 and 55 seconds.
All right, any objection to 396B?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right, 396B.
Please, what? This is your last plea. This is your last plea. This is your last call. Last one. This is not helping! You stupid fuck! This is not helping!
If you could please go to 2:49 and 30 seconds, please.
I don't fucking care. You shut up with that. It's impossible. I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you later. Talk to you later.
You heard Miss Heard say, "Get off me," right?
No, I did not. I heard distant screaming, and I heard, "I'll talk to you later, I'll talk to you later."
Let's look at
reading,
Exhibit
it sounds like to
857,
me.
please.
That's defendant's 857?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is this another audio file? Oh, no.
It's not, no.
Okay, is there any?
Mr. Depp, I'd like to direct your attention to the second to last text
Yes,
on this. This is a text from you to your agent, Christian Carino, on August 15th, 2016, correct?
that's correct. That's what it looks like, yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance and prejudice.
If you could approach for a moment. Make it
Your Honor, for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and may I ask the witness about the portions that we discussed, and then we can provide a redacted version.
Okay.
Mr. Depp, in this text message from you to Christian Carino, your agent, on August 15th, 2016, you tell him, you go on at some length about Amber, but you say, she will hit the wall hard, 4 exclamation points. And then later down you say, I can only hope that karma kicks in and takes the gift of breath from her. Did I read that right?
Objection compound.
I'll allow it. Ms. One.
You read that correctly, sir.
And this wasn't the first time that you talked about Amber hitting the wall hard. Let's pull up Exhibit 213, please.
Hitting the wall hard based on the
We'll just take a look at the
accusations
next
that she
exhibit, Mr.
brought.
Depp.
I'm sorry, I was talking. Is that all right?
You had answered my question. We'll take a look at the next exhibit. Thank you.
Yeah. As long as you're happy, sir.
Mr. Depp, this is a text that you sent to Bruce Whitkin on February 4th, 2014. The text at the top
where
of the
am
page.
I looking, sir?
On your screen, please.
I
sorry.
figured that out.
The top text on the screen.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a specific, if it was third from the bottom or somewhere around the corner. What would you like me to do?
This is a text that you sent to Bruce Whitkin on February 4th, 2014, correct?
2014, yes. Yes.
Your Honor, I move for admission of this exhibit with just that text displayed.
With the redactions applied and also the identifiers. That's
Okay.
Yep.
Redaction
We have that.
identifiers.
We have that ready.
All right, 213 in evidence with redactions.
Move for the admission of this. Permission to publish, Your Honor.
It is in evidence,
Thank
so you can publish it.
Mr. Depp, on February 4th, 2014, you tell Mr. Whitkin, Amber and I hit the wall hard. You see that?
I do, sir.
And that's the same phrase that you used in your text to Mr. Carino from 2016 that we just read, correct?
They are similar words, but they have different meanings. If,
Can we
I
pull
don't know
up
if that makes sense to you, but
Exhibit 498, please? Mr. Depp, is this a text exchange that you had with Ms. Hurd on or about October 28th, 2015?
yes, sir.
And I'd like to direct your attention to the third text down.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 498 with identifiers redacted.
Any objection?
Relevance, Your Honor.
All right,
May we approach?
okay, sure.
Can you pull up Exhibit 330, please? Mr. Depp, I'd like to turn your attention to the middle text on this page, which is a text from you to someone named Ryan A. On January 12th, 2015. Do you see that?
January. The second one from the last.
Yes.
January 12th?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is that Ryan Adams, the singer?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, move for admission of Defendant's Exhibit 330. Just plan on asking him about that text.
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm happy to approach if you want. Can you pull up Exhibit 620, please? Mr. Depp, I'd like to turn your attention to text number 40.
Okay.
It's the third one down.
Yes,
This is a text from you to Malcolm Connolly. Is that right?
that's correct.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of this document with the third text down.
If I just,
Sure.
I'm happy to approach to discuss if Your Honor would like.
relevance, objection, again, Your Honor.
Okay, if you want to approach. Redacted.
Mr. Mr. Ottenborn, if that's coming in, we'd allow, like, the contextual text messages as well, if we might take a look, please.
I'm sorry.
We would like to take a look and just make sure the contextual text messages are coming in with the one that you're directing Mr. Depp to.
I'm just going to address the court. That was the text message that I would like to get in. If they're, I'm not sure what she's asking, Your Honor.
We'll just go forward with that text message for now. Okay.
Mr. Depp, do you remember last week the jury saw the video of you, as you called it, assaulting the cupboards in that kitchen on Sweetser Avenue?
Yes, sir. Very well said.
And that was on or about February 10th, 2016, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll allow it if you can answer.
I don't know when that's from. I have asked for the metadata. I've asked for the date and received nothing.
Okay. This text you sent on February 10th, 2016 to Malcolm Connolly. Malcolm Connolly is one of your security guards, correct?
Yes, he is.
And in this text, you say, "Thanks, dear Mal. I'm just at the point where I feel like I'm going to puke all the time. Once I get this shit moving and get myself out of her level of shit, I will never mention this cunt's name again, ever again. And the first prick that asks about her gets a warning. Should the single-celled prick decide to push it, he never forgets me and will always be remembered throughout his life as the guy that got his fucking nose bit off, chewed up, and swallowed by Johnny Depp. While I do have some civilized bones in my body, just on a matter of principle, I must force him to watch me fulfill this promise of mangling his motherfucker of a beezer. Love you, X." Did I read that right?
You did.
I'd like to turn to your views on Miss Heard's career. Can you please pull up Exhibit 195? I'd like to direct your attention to the second to last text from the bottom. This is a text message exchange between you and Miss Heard on October 29th, 2013, correct?
It looks like it is, yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 195 with the appropriate identifiers redacted.
We would object on relevance grounds, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is him expressing his views on her taking a meeting about a movie, her career, his views.
So 195 will be in evidence with, redacted with the identifiers.
Mr. Depp, you see the text that from Amber that says, "I'm at a coffee meeting now." You see that?
I do, sir.
Right there. So she tells you at 12:41 p.m., "I'm at a coffee meeting now, we'll be home soon." And then you respond, "Holy crack whores, no goddamn meetings, no movies. Why? Why do you deviate from our agreement? What species of meeting? Fuck it, just tell me when you get home. Did I read that right?
You did, but a coffee meeting.
You didn't want her to take the meeting that she was taking that day, correct?
It seems as though we had an agreement, what seems like we had an agreement to do something together. I'm actually asking what species of meeting. So this is not necessarily an angry text. It's just, why do you deviate from our agreement? It's not about her doing films. How do you think she got Aquaman, sir?
You tell her no goddamn meetings, no movies, because you didn't want her acting. You wanted to control her career, correct?
Objection, compound.
That's
hold
patently
on,
untrue,
Mr.
and it's a
Mr.
great
Depp,
guess.
sir. All right, yes, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Sorry.
We can move on. Exhibit 394, please. Defendant's exhibit.
Thank you.
Mr. Depp, if you can take a look at the fourth text down. This is a text from you to Dr. Kipper on, it's in the timestamp issue. I believe it was sent on March 8th, 2015 in Australia, timestamped March 7th, 2015. Do you see that?
I do, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of 394.
No objection with the proper redactions of the rest of the text messages and the identifiers.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
394 in evidence with redactions.
Permission to publish?
All right, yes, yes, sir.
Mr. Depp, on this date, right after you had suffered an injury to your finger, you text Dr. Kipper and you say, "Hi, fucked, man. Had another one. I just cannot live like this. She is as full of shit as a Christmas goose. I'm done. No more. The constant insults, the demeaning, belittling, most heartbreaking spew that is only released from a malicious, evil, and vindictive cunt. But you know what? Far more hurtful than her venomous and degrading, endless educational ranting is her hideously and purposely hurtful tirades and her goddamn shocking treatment of the man she was meant to love, above all. Here's the real deal, mate. Her obsession with herself is far more important. She is so fucking ambitious. She's so desperate for success and fame. That's probably why I was acquired, mate. Although she has hammered me with what a sad old man has-been I am, Cowan has done me the most cruel of favors. I'm so very sad. I cut the top of my middle finger off. What should I do? Except, of course, go to a hospital. I'm so embarrassed for jumping into anything with her. Fuck the world." Did I read that right?
Yes, Mr. Rottenborn.
So even as you are ranting about Miss Heard to Dr. Kipper, even as you were talking about her ambition and expressing your objections to that, you still admit to him that you cut the top of your middle finger off, correct?
Objection, compound.
All right, sustain as compound.
You're complaining about her ambition in this text to her, to Dr. Kipper, correct?
I'm realizing that her ambition is far stronger than her supposed feelings for me, yes.
And there's nothing about this text that's trying to protect her.
Protect her?
And
from what?
And you tell Dr. Kipper, I cut the top of my middle finger off in this text, correct?
It's just the way it was worded. It doesn't mean that I actually literally cut my finger off after, at the age of 12, finding the only thing that gave me peace, which is playing the guitar. Very unlikely. Why didn't I start lopping off digits when I was 13 then?
Just the way it was worded. Now, Miss Heard wasn't the only one who had a problem with your, you can take that down. Miss Heard wasn't the only one who had a problem with your drinking and abuse of alcohol, correct?
Objection compound.
All right, I'll sustain the objection if you want.
Miss Heard wasn't the only one who had a problem with your drinking, correct?
Sir, if anyone had a problem with my drinking at any time in my life, it was me. The only person that I have ever abused in my life is myself.
In fact, you tried to hide your drinking from your daughter, Lily Rose, didn't you?
Objection relevance.
What's the relevance?
When your nerves are
But,
pushed...
sir, if you
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Okay.
Pardon.
Can you pull up Exhibit 207, please? Can you scroll down, please? Thank you. Mr. Depp, I'd like to direct your attention to the last text on this page. It's a text from you to Kevin Murphy. He was your estate manager, correct?
He was.
This is a text from you to Kevin Murphy on January 21st, 2014, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of that portion of Defendant's Exhibit 207 with redactions.
With the identifiers redacted, that's fine. Thank you.
207?
Permission to publish?
Yes, sir.
And in this text to Kevin Murphy on January 21st, 2014, you say, just trying to get over my shocking discussion with Vanessa that lasted 5+ hours. Vanessa's your former partner, correct?
She's the mother of my children, yes.
The mother of your children, that's right. And then you say, I feel ill and have invested my guts into some side corner. Now, Lily Rose hates me because she thinks I'm drinking, and she's right. But I can't admit, or I fucking die in her eyes. Thanks for that one, Vanessa. Come to master in main house. Did I read that correctly?
You did, sir.
Can you pull up Exhibit 1092, please? Mr. Depp, is this a picture of you passed out in a chair during daylight hours?
Again, isn't passed out, that's a very specific term. Sleep could be one, passed out.
Let's try it this way. This is a picture of you in a chair, correct?
That is correct.
Move for the admission of 1092, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Relevance, Your Honor?
Your Honor, I'm trying to move this along, and when we stopped with
Well,
relevance,
you want to lay a foundation, I just don't.
this is a picture of Mr. Depp. We've introduced another, on Thursday, another picture of that.
What is the date of this photograph? I'm sorry.
Can you take that down and put up Exhibit 470, Michelle, please? Mr. Depp, is the bottom text on this page a text exchange or a text message from you to your personal assistant, Stephen Duders, on September 3rd, 2015?
That's what it looks like, yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of this exhibit with just that text and the appropriate redactions. Exhibit 470.
Yeah. Again, relevance, Your Honor. And cumulative.
I'll allow this one if we just.
Thank you, Your Honor.
With the redactions.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
All right, yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Depp, in the effort to move this along, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to start with the word main bits, which is 5 lines down. You write to Mr. Duders on September 3rd, 2015, main bits needed are Xanax and Adderall, and I want no judgment from Kipper or Debbie. Kipper means Dr. David Kipper, correct?
That's correct.
And Debbie means Debbie Lloyd, your sobriety nurse, correct?
That is correct.
Just found out from Joel last night how much I spent on having Kipper and Debbie around. Millions and fucking millions, mate. All the while, Debbie just hung around Broad, BCH, and gave me new meds like every 2 weeks. She was on set maybe 4 times. Wow. Then 5 money symbols. Sorry, just how it is. Did I read that right?
You did.
Can we pull up Exhibit 587, please? This is a recording, Your Honor.
And I already have 5787A, so this is 587B.
587B, Your Honor. The excerpts to be played are 1940 through 1953 and 2304 through 2329.
Any objection?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right. 587B in evidence.
I wanted to have my birthday. I want to be able to talk to you. I thought you'd be clean and sober and it would fix a lot of our problems.
I'm never getting clean.
I know.
In that clip, Mr. Depp, you tell Ms. Heard, I'm never getting clean and sober, correct?
It sounds like to me that yeah, it's either that or I have never been clean and sober.
Thank
It's one
you.
of the
Let's
two.
play 2304, please.
In the big picture, the big scheme of things, it does nothing but hurt us. And why? Because the coke and booze doesn't make it easier for you to see how clearly that is.
You gotta stop. You gotta stop with the coke and booze.
All the coke
You're wrong.
all the coke you've done today, and all the booze you've drank today.
By the way,
Has it helped you?
I just got.
Has it helped us?
Just got the coke
Has it helped us?
today.
Yeah, I know because yesterday you were 1,000 times better.
Right.
Yesterday did we?
I'd like to turn now to a few more of your words around the time that you went into detox, about how you viewed Amber's role in that process, Mr. Depp. Can you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 120_40? And Your Honor, 120_41 was admitted the other day, but I'd like to introduce this as a separate exhibit.
So 120B, and that would be _40, you said, 40?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any objection to that?
If I may, it just came up on the screen.
Okay.
Mr. Depp, while they're looking at that, is the second text from the bottom a text that you sent to Amber's mom, Paige, on August 19th, 2014?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
And this is when you were either in the middle of or finishing up your detox process from roxycodone, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And no objection?
No objection.
Okay. 120B in evidence. You want to publish? Or as is, correct?
With the other
Okay.
That's fine.
text messages redacted, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, with you, okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, you can publish.
And in this text message that you write Amber's mom on August 19th, 2014, you say, "My dearest Paige, how unbelievably kind and pure your message was. I am beyond thankful to have you in my life. There is no luckier man on this earth to have the strength that Amber gives me and the full support of each of you individually that I've gotten helps immeasurably. I don't need to explain the horrors to you. You know as well as I. What you do need to know, that your daughter has risen far above the nightmarish task of taking care of this poor old junkie. Never a second has gone by that she didn't look out for me or have her eyes on me to make sure that I was okay. YN words are truly feeble in attempting to explain her heroism in a text. Suffice to say that I have never met or loved a woman or a thing more. She has the strength of 1,000 men, and that is due to no one or nothing but you, sweetheart. Thank you. I love you. Your son, Outlaw. Did I read that correctly?
You did, sir.
I'd like to take a look at another document, Exhibit 272, please. Is this a text message that you shared, a text message exchange between you and Amber the following day on April 20th, 2014?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, permission to, or I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 272 and ask for permission to publish.
With the identifiers removed, we have no objection.
All right, remove the identifiers. All right, 272 in evidence as redacted.
Now, Mr. Depp, you testified on Thursday that you saw nothing wrong with referring to Amber as a lesbian camp counselor when she was trying to get you to stop using drugs. But let's take a look at what you say in this text.
She had used that term before.
In this text, Mr. Depp, you say, just to let you know that I'm fine, my angel. I miss you, of course, but this was the right thing to do to speed up the process. I love you more than life. Yours, Steve. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
You can take that down. Now, you've brought this lawsuit about the op-ed specifically, but for years prior to the date that Ms. Heard wrote the op-ed, there were numerous negative news stories about you. You'd agree with that, correct?
Objection, compound.
All right, I'll sustain it to compound. If you
For years prior to 2018, when Amber wrote the op-ed, there were numerous negative news stories about you that were released into the public, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll allow it if you can answer.
By 2018, you're saying?
Correct.
Yes, it all started with Ms. Heard going directly to a court to get a TRO, which is with a bruise on her face and paparazzi. That was the sort of beginning of the ball rolling down the hill and gaining momentum.
There were lots of negative
destroying
stories
me.
about you prior to May 27, 2016, when Amber went into court, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Now it's 2016. I'll allow it if you can answer.
There were plenty of negative stories about you prior to that date, weren't there?
Sir, I've been in the racket of Hollywood since 1984.
Mr. Depp, I'm asking you a yes or no question. There were plenty of negative news stories about you prior to May 27, 2016, correct?
From 1984 up until then, they're both. So, of course, people write negative stories.
Sure. And you just testified to the jury that it all started on May 27, 2016. So that's why I asked you to clarify about the negative stories prior to that date. And you'd agree that there were, correct?
Can you be specific about the stories? Of course, there have been negative stories.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
All right.
Your Honor, I have here numerous exhibits in one sort of compendium, all press articles about Mr. Depp, if I may approach.
Thank you. All right, yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Your Honor, in having received this, I would like to preemptively lodge a hearsay, lack of foundation. And
He hasn't got him in evidence yet. Are you moving?
No,
these to
I'm
evidence?
happy to approach, but they're certainly not being admitted for the truth of the matter asserted, but I'm happy to approach and discuss if you'd like.
Right.
Mr. Depp, if you could please take a look at the stack of articles in front of you.
Yes, it's a stack of hit
Yes,
pieces
the first one is
generated
called
by
the,
Ms. Heard's publicity team.
Mr. Depp, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible.
I'm just
I'm going to ask you
stating
about
that
the
they are,
first
sir.
one. Well, we're going to talk about them. The first one is entitled, is from The Guardian. Do you see that?
Apparently drunk.
Yes, and this is an article from November 15th, 2014, entitled, Apparently Drunk Johnny Depp Cut Off at Hollywood Film Awards Ceremony, correct?
That's what it says, yes, sir.
And the next article is an article from May 7th, 2016. It's entitled, Johnny Depp, Friends and Family Seriously Concerned About Him. Here's Why.
Yes.
Correct.
How did they know?
The next article from May 1st, 2017, before Ms. Heard filed for a restraining order, a year and a half before she published, this would be after May 1st, 2017. The headline is, Johnny Depp has a clear and epic sense of entitlement, ex-managers say. Published
Yes.
in the Hollywood Reporter, correct?
I was in a lawsuit with them, sir.
The next article from May 10th, 2017 is entitled, Johnny Depp, a star in crisis and the insane story of his missing millions. Did I read that right?
That's straight from the same lawsuit, sir.
The next article, also from May 10th, 2017, a year and a half before the op-ed was published, says, Johnny Depp reportedly drank heavily and was constantly late on the new Pirates movie set. Did I read that right?
You did, reportedly.
The next
These are
article,
all hit
also
pieces.
from May
These are
10th,
dregs,
2017.
sir.
Mr.
This
Depp,
is a pathetic attempt.
Mr. Depp, please just respond to the question that I'm asking you.
What's your
The next
Mr.
question,
Rottenborn?
the next document, an article published in Vanity Fair on May 10th, 2017,
Yes, sir.
is entitled, Johnny Depp's Financial Woes Might Sink the Next Pirates of the Caribbean. Did I read that right?
You did. I don't know
The
how
next
my
article,
financial woes would do
May
that.
25th, 2017, a year and a half before the op-ed was published, an article entitled, Where Did It All Go Wrong for Johnny Depp? After a string of flops and a ton of bad press, Johnny Depp's star power looks as wobbly as Jack Sparrow on a plank. Did I read that right?
You read that very, very well.
The next one, Hollywood Reporter, May 27th, 2017. Headline, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Diminishing Returns of Johnny Depp. Did I read that right?
You certainly did. Hollywood Reporter were very nice to me at the time.
July 12th, 2017. Why are all of Johnny Depp's movies bombing at the box office? Did I read that right?
You certainly did.
November 4th, 2017. A year and a month before Amber published the op-ed. Headline, Johnny Depp allegedly showed up drunk to movie premiere, reports say. Did I read that
Allegedly,
correctly?
reports say. This is hearsay. is
June
it not?
21st, 2018,
word.
6 months before the op-ed was published. Vanity Fair article, The Real Reason Johnny Depp Used an Earpiece on a Film Set.
I think that was
I
explained
read
in
that
court
correctly?
the other day. Oh, you did, yeah.
June 21st, 2018, 6 months before the op-ed was published. A Rolling Stone article entitled, The Trouble with Johnny Depp. Multi-million-dollar lawsuits, a haze of booze and hash, a marriage gone very wrong, and a lifestyle he can't afford inside the trials of Johnny Depp. Did I read that right?
You did. You should read the article. It's
And the
wonderful.
last one, June 22nd, 2018, the Daily Mail, vodka for breakfast, 72-hour drug binges, and spending sprees that beggar belief. Alison Boshoff reveals why Hollywood's reeling over what's being called Johnny Depp's career suicide note. Did I read that correctly?
You did. Who's Alison Boshoff and how does she know?
Mr. Depp, you can't name
Oh, it
a
won't
single
answer that, I see.
actress who has benefited in her career by coming forward and stating that she was the victim of domestic violence, can you?
I'm sorry, what was
Objection
that?
calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
When Amber made abuse accusations against you in May 2016, fair to say it got a lot of press attention, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
When Amber made abuse accusations against you in May 2016, you became aware that it got a lot of press attention, correct?
Very quickly, I became aware.
And she became associated with those abuse accusations that she made against you in May 2016, correct? To your knowledge.
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
You became associated with those domestic abuse accusations that she made against you, correct?
I think that's clear.
And
yes.
you understood that she became associated with those same accusations that she made, correct? You've testified to that.
Well, she had a choice, I didn't.
And you've talked about the immediate impact that those accusations on May 27th, 2016 allegedly had on your career, correct?
Yes.
You testified earlier in your examination on direct that when Amber made those accusations in 2016, you said you lost, quote, nothing less than everything, correct?
That is correct, sir.
But you didn't try to get the restraining order lifted in 2016, did you?
I don't. If she wanted a
It's
restraining
a yes
order.
or no question. You didn't try to get the restraining
No,
order
why
lifted,
would
did you?
I?
And you didn't have a divorce trial where you could respond to Amber's accusations of abuse in 2016, did you?
Objection calls for a legal conclusion.
I'm asking him if he had a trial. That's
All
a
right,
fact.
I'll allow-
You didn't have a divorce trial where you could respond to Amber's accusations of abuse, did you?
No, there were no charges pressed against
You
me.
chose
She didn't
not
tell
to-
the police that I had done anything. She didn't mention my name.
And you didn't have a California divorce judge decide these facts, did you?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll
You
sustain the
chose
objection.
you
Next
chose not to try to clear your name at that time through any sort of legal proceeding, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll sustain the objection. Next
And you chose to sign a divorce agreement in which you stated that Amber had not made any false statements about you for financial gain. We looked at that, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Asked and answered. I'll sustain the objection. Next
In
question.
fact, you waited until Amber wrote the op-ed in the Washington Post in December of 2018 to file a lawsuit against her, correct?
That is correct.
Can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 2, please?
It was the only time that I
Permission
was
to
able
publish,
to
Your Honor?
speak and use my own voice.
You chose not to sue the Washington Post in this lawsuit, correct?
Exhibit 2 is an evidence.
Objection relevance asked and answered.
It's not been asked and answered.
Hasn't been asked and answered, but I'm not sure what the relevance is.
You chose to sue only Ms. Heard and not the newspaper that published this article, correct?
Objection compound.
All right, I'll sustain as to compound.
You chose not to sue the Washington Post, correct?
Objection relevance.
I'll sustain the objection.
You only sued the author of this article, Amber Heard, correct?
Which seems she was the one making the statements. Yes, I had the opportunity to fight back.
Permission to publish Exhibit 2, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 2 is already in evidence, so we will publish.
Mr. Depp, you realize that the only job for this jury to decide,
Yes, sir.
its only job, is to determine whether this op-ed and this op-ed alone is defamatory.
Objection calls for a legal conclusion.
I'll sustain the objection.
This is the only writing that that's the subject of this lawsuit that you brought, correct?
Same objection.
It's facts, Your Honor. He's the
I'll
one who brought the
allow
lawsuit.
that question. I'll allow that question.
This is a version of that story of the op-ed that I have never seen. The one that was published before, the only one I've ever seen is the one that was published prior to this. They changed the title because they were in fear of trouble.
Well, I'd move to strike that last testimony, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, it's clear.
Whether it's the online edition or this edition in the paper, this article is the only statement, the only publication of anything that's the subject of the lawsuit that you brought, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll sustain the objection.
This op-ed, Mr. Depp, does not discuss any of the details of your relationship that we've seen in texts and emails and recordings over the past few days, does it?
Objection compound and asked and answered.
I'll sustain both objections.
In fact, this article doesn't contain any details of your relationship with Ms. Heard.
Objection asked and answered.
I'll sustain the
The
objection.
only thing that this article states, Mr. Depp, is that in 2016, Amber made accusations of domestic abuse. Correct.
It was clear that she'd made allegations in 2016.
And she
so
did that
by
when
then,
she
yes.
obtained a restraining order against you in 2016, correct?
Yeah, I suppose, yes. Yeah,
And even if you disagree with the accusations that she made against you in May 2016, it is a true fact that she did make those accusations in 2016 and got a restraining order against you, correct?
Objection compound asked and answered.
Sustain the objections. Next question.
To your knowledge, the words that Ms. Heard used in this article about getting a restraining order against you in 2016, those are true, correct?
I'm sorry?
Objection,
words that
it
Ms.
states
Heard
the
used-
document.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. You want-
Can you go to the third paragraph? Pull up the third paragraph, please. The statement that then 2 years ago, Ms. Heard became a public figure representing domestic abuse, that is true, isn't it?
I'm not sure what we're looking at.
Objection
Oh, I see it.
calls for a legal conclusion.
I don't quite know. I'd have to read it to get some
Could we
understanding of it.
scroll through so Mr. Depp can look at the rest of this document?
Oops. Oop, there it goes. It looks, this appears to me to be some species of contract, no?
Is this a contract that you entered into?
With Disney.
Your Honor, I'd ask that Plaintiff's Exhibit 804 be moved into evidence and published.
Any objection?
I think it's outside the scope of direct or cross-examination.
I'll overrule on that objection.
Okay, and I'll reserve other objections to portions of the document, depending on what she's going to ask about. Could be hearsay.
But she's asking to put it all into evidence right now.
Well, then I would object to that at this point.
All right, you want to come forward? Let's see. Okay. If I could just get a redacted copy of that at some point. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Depp, if I could direct your attention to Section 6 of the contract, which is on pages 8 through 10 of the document. And Mr. Depp, what does this reflect?
Sorry. It appears to be the agreement of Pirates 4 and 5, compensation and merchandise.
Mr. Depp, at this time, how many other franchise films had you been a part of?
At that time, Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland. I'm so pathetic when it comes to knowing what movies I've done. I'm sorry. I just, I don't watch them. I feel better not watching them. I couldn't, what was the question again?
How many?
I have
many
order
other
in the court, or I will have you removed. Understood? Thank you.
How many other franchise films had you been a part of at the time of this contract?
There was a third. There was Pirates. There was, with Warner Brothers, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and then Crimes of Grindelwald.
And how does the compensation reflected in this contract compare to that, what you receive for the other franchises that you've been a part of?
Objection, Foundation.
He just established that he was a member of other franchise films at this point.
And he hasn't established a foundation that he knows how he was compensated for this.
I'll overrule the objection if you can answer.
I believe the compensation, obviously, all the pay and back end and all those things are negotiated by agents, lawyers, and this was comparatively this is my salary on that film, and other salaries were of a similar status, I suppose.
If I could direct your attention to the 12th page of the document.
Yes. Who?
Is this your signature, Mr. Depp?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We can take this down, thank you. Mr. Depp, I recall that you testified that you don't know during a given period what movies you were working on. So my question is, who would know that?
Well, first and foremost, as my agent, or agents. I do recall a couple of the other films that I'd made after. One was initially called Richard Says Goodbye, and that was, they changed the name to The Professor, and during all of the nastiness over the past 6 years, that film went straight to pay-per-view. There was another film called Minamata that was produced. It was my company, Infinitum Nile. We had developed a film called Minamata about Eugene Smith, and the Minamata, the mercury poisoning of a very small fishing village in southern Japan. There was that one, and then there was a film called Waiting for the Barbarians with Mark Rylance and Robert Pattinson. those were 3 films that I had done.
Mr. Depp, during your cross-examination, Mr. Rottenborn showed you a number of text messages between you and Paul Bettany. Do you remember that?
I do.
Could you please explain to the jury what your relationship with Mr. Bettany is?
Mr. Bettany and I had, we'd met while I was making a film called The Tourist in Venice, and we were, it was an instant connection. He's born and bred in the UK and has that English sort of dry, kind of obtuse, abstract sense of humor. And that was one of the things that we connected on, is taking, even if it was a difficult or unpleasant situation, we would, do our best to deal with it with humor, as opposed to just a constant complaint or whining or anything of that nature. We dealt with it with humor, albeit sometimes as these are private texts that have been, there was a lot of in context. It's important to know that none of it was ever intended to be real, and the language that's used, which I am ashamed that that has to be spread on the world like peanut butter. For example, the text that is about burning Ms. Heard it's directly from Monty Python in the sketch about burning witches and then drowning the witches. This is a film that we'd all watched when we were 10, and it's just irreverent and abstract humor. That's what we were referring to in those texts.
The text message that you just referenced, other than Mr. Bettany, who else saw that text message at the time that it was sent?
No one. Of course not.
Based on your own observations, how would you describe Mr. Bettany's relationship with Ms. Heard while you and Ms. Heard were together?
Abominable.
Why was that?
Ms. Heard despised Mr. Bettany mainly because we had become such close friends, and for her he was a threat, and would take me away from her with regard to if Paul Bettany was getting the attention from me. That was a showstopper. It would cause all kinds of unpleasantries, to the point of where when we were on the island with Mr. Bettany, his wife, and his 4 children, Ms. Heard and Mr. Bettany got into some debate over lunch, and I just remember that whenever Mr. Bettany tried to make a point, she would talk over him, and then it started to get quite rude. She got mean, and she got loud. And then I believe it was his 18-year-old boy who was getting ready to go to he's a very bright, brilliant kid. He entered the conversation because this was something to do with what he'd studied in school, and he knew quite a lot about it, and he voiced his opinion. And Ms. Heard demeaned that young man to the point of where he burst into tears and walked away. And it was at that point that I had spoken to Ms. Heard and said, that's just unacceptable. That behavior is unacceptable. You have no right to demean that boy. You cannot always be right. You should try being wrong sometime because you might learn something. And then I asked her to, I thought it was best that she leave the island.
Could we please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 245? And Mr. Depp, I believe this is another text message with Mr. Bettany that you were shown on your cross-examination. And directing your attention to the text message at the top of the page from May 30th, 2014. Do you recognize this text message you sent to Paul Bettany?
Yes, I do.
And could you please describe to the jury what you are conveying to Mr. Bettany in this message?
This again is, I suppose, an example of the way that I write and express myself. That is to say, you stretch your situation out to give him the understanding that you're drowning, essentially. So everything that I say here is, in fact, an impossibility for the human body. I would have been, well, I would have certainly at least had to be rushed to the hospital for a stomach pump. There's a line here that, if you don't mind, I say that when I say I'm done, I am admittedly too fucked in the head to spray my rage at the one I love, for little reason as well. I'm too old to be that guy, but pills are fine. The pills that were referenced were the pills that that I was coming off of, and they were the only thing that could give me some semblance of the same numbing effect that I searched for as a child with my mother. And saying that I was too messed up in the head was, it's kind of like if you've been told since you were a child that everything you do is wrong, and that I shouldn't have even been alive, or whatever, joyous little treats that my then very sick, very ill mother brought to me. Ms. Heard was well aware of my past, my childhood, therefore was very adept at knowing exactly which buttons to push. So at this point, I felt like, well, I was that little boy again in my head, like, I guess I am incapable of doing anything right. I guess I will never be happy. I guess that this is who I am. I can't get along with this person. But it's confusion, you know. It's nothing that you can. It's nothing that anyone could sustain for any length of time. It's nothing that anyone should have to sustain for any length of time when you're being demeaned, berated, judged, and treated like a lesser animal, and treated as if I'm only surrounded by yes men, and that I'm a bad father, and that these things were endless. They were endless, and there was no call for them. It's hard to understand why someone that is supposed to love you could be that cruel. And there's also times where you just say, okay, I'm gonna try to not have I won't fall for the argument. I won't participate in the argument. Because I knew where it would go, into her circular pattern of psychological abuse.
Mr. Depp, what do you mean when you use the term blackout in this text message?
Blackout. Yes, because I'm talking about 1,000 Red Bulls and vodkas, 1,000 of them, 2 bottles of champagne, no food for days, half a bottle of whiskey. Those things, had that been all absolutely true, would have not only caused a blackout, but it would have caused a severe alcohol poisoning, overdose. I would have had to have gone immediately. If that were true, I would have had to have been taken to a hospital, or I'd just die. So, no, blackout is when someone gets so drunk on alcohol, essentially, on alcohol. But the pills that I had my addiction, that I was addicted to, the roxycodone, which are very, very powerful opiates. Two of those would knock me out. That is to say, so there's blackout, which is a person could be wide awake and wreaking havoc, or having a giggle in a blackout and never remember it. But when you are, when you've taken the prescription medication, it knocks you out. You are certainly not, well, you're not in any condition to, first of all, swing at anyone. You are out. You go on what's called the nod, and then it takes you away into sleep. It's just very deep sleep. And I found that much more accepting than having to hear constant badgering and insults.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 153, which I believe Mr. Rottenborn also showed you last week.
Yes.
Do you remember seeing this during Mr. Rottenborn's examination of you last week?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay. Now, I'd like to show you the full text exchange, which is in Plaintiff's Exhibit 120. And since there's been a number of text messages drawn from this document, this would be Plaintiff's Exhibit 120C.
Which page would that be, or underscore?
This would be 4 and 5, Your Honor.
4 and 5, thank you.
Mr. Depp, do you recognize these text messages?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd move Plaintiff's 120C into evidence and ask that it be published to the jury.
All right, 120C in evidence, publish.
Mr. Depp, who are you communicating with in these text messages?
In fact, though it says Marino, these are texts between my ex, that is to say, the Vanessa Paradis, the mother of my children. And this is again, abstract humor that we're conveying back and forth to one another. This was all, it was a joke. It certainly wasn't about Miss Heard. We didn't speak of her much together.
Do you recall what you were talking about?
I don't recall who it was. I don't recall who it was, but it was someone who had, for some reason, I think it was, I think that the possibility is that 2013. It might have been, we had a nanny at one point, who in fact, we found her, she was caught stealing, even from my, at the time, my, maybe 10, 11-year-old boy, Jack, who was bright enough, because he knew it, he was bright enough, he had a $5 bill that he wadded up and put on his desk in his bedroom, and when he came home from school...
Your Honor, I'm just going to object on relevance. The question was, who was this about?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Depp, I'd also like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 143, which I believe Mr. Rottenborn also showed you last week. Do you remember seeing this email exchange? You could scroll down as well, please. Thank you.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Who are you exchanging these emails with?
Stephen Duders, who was at the time was my assistant.
And what are you and Mr. Duders discussing here?
Gobbledygook, essentially. It was as I remember, it was a day of work, and there were times when I would send a text to Mr. Duders, because he's the worrisome type. I would send him a text in jest, of course, and to to get a rise out of him, to get some reaction out of him. So, you know, I would tell him things like, you know, I woke up and I'm bleeding profusely from the inside of my ear. Is that normal? You know, it would be things like that. So this is exactly the same kind of thing. I think we were even referencing The Hangover, the film The Hangover, in part of this, about the Mike Tyson and sort of bizarre circus that I was telling him that I had in my room, and that there was blood everywhere. It was a joke to just sort of throw him off, worry him, and make. Ultimately, it was a joke, and we were laughing about it.
Mr. Depp, what, if any, portion of this email exchange is literally true?
We're all set to leave here at approximately 1:30 p.m. Hope you rested well.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to talk to you about some text messages that Mr. Rottenborn showed you where you refer to the monster, and this is in the context of in conversations with that don't include Ms. Heard. Do you remember seeing some of those communications?
Yes.
Okay. First, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 427, please, which is a text message from you to Jerry Judge. How are you using the term monster in this context when you're communicating with Mr. Judge?
The monster could essentially, the monster could, it could be two separate things. The monster in her eyes was my,
Objection as to what the monster was in Ms. Heard's eyes, Your Honor.
All right. I'll just state as to her eyes if you want to
Okay.
ask. Rephrase.
the monster was defined by Ms. Heard as this out of control
Same objection,
thing.
Your Honor. What Ms. Heard's view of the monster was is not for this witness to say.
Mr. Depp, how do you know how Ms. Heard defined the word monster?
She said the words to me.
And what words did she say with respect to the term monster?
It was her go-to phrase, and it was the go-to phrase for me being, again, you know, as has been embellished and elaborated, the drug use or the drink or the whatever, but the monster was, for me, and again, you start to think about these things and you put it in your own head, in what the real context is. The monster was sobriety. The monster was trying to be sober because I was plagued by these requests to stop drinking. But the monster could also be if a conversation, if something starts as a conversation, which would quickly ramp up to quite an antagonizing argument, if I responded to her, if I took part in the verbal back and forth where people do in life end up saying obscenities, screaming obscenities at one another, or calling them names, or when it gets to that point, I mean, the monster was just for me, was just the guy who actually was dumb enough to continue to take part in arguments that would ultimately get nowhere. So that is one of the reasons why I would try to get away from Ms. Heard and not participate in her debates and the knowledge that she wanted to express to me, and circular and painful insults that were just constant. It was rapid fire. So I stopped participating in those. I tried to walk away. I tried to go to another room, even to the point of locking myself in rooms so that she just could pound on the door and scream. That was clearly a mistake. I should have never fallen for that or taken the bait to allow myself to get into a conversation which led to an argument, which led to physical violence. It was not going to be good, so I just walk away, which drove her through the roof.
So, Mr. Depp, why would you use the term monster when communicating with people other than Ms. Heard?
Well, because I heard it all the time. I mean, it was, as I said, that was her go-to. The monster. The monster's here. The monster's back. Monster. So I would refer to the monster again in terms of some with Elton or with friends Patti Smith. The monster was like with Elton. I think it was just the monster was I let the monster creep back in or something. That is sobriety. That's what I'm telling him is I have failed, and I've had a drink, or I've been drinking. But my drinking again was not to excess. I would never went into blackouts or anything of that nature. I was disappointed in myself for not staying there. Although when you are constantly in a position to be harassed by your beloved other, what else could I do? I wanted to be numb. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to feel that, especially from one who had professed such love for me, but gave me mostly hatred.
Your Honor, I'm about to switch subjects, so if this would be a good time for the lunch break.
All right. We started a little later, so I don't mind going a little further.
Okay.
If you want to do that, go ahead.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 161. I believe Mr. Rottenborn showed you this last week and again today.
Yes. Yes.
Do you recognize these text messages as between you and Ms. Heard?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Why are you informing Ms. Heard that there's a book called Disco Bloodbath?
When I texted her, 2:30 in the afternoon, I was in a bookstore, a used bookstore, or a bookstore that had a lot of first editions and things like that, which was sort of a passion. And I saw a book called Disco Bloodbath, and I thought it was a funny title. I can't say that I was necessarily referencing anything other than I thought it was a funny title, Disco Bloodbath. It sounded like a sort of a bad slasher movie to me. So I said, just thought you should know that there exists a book titled Disco bloodbath, that's all. And then she said, we need that book. And then she asked me, is it about last Friday night by any chance? And then my answer to her, how can you make me smile about such a hideous moment? The fact is, this is a light-hearted exchange that she's even saying, we need that book. Then she makes a reference to last Friday night, which I don't recall what last Friday night was or whatever, so I just how can you make me smile about such a hideous moment? A hideous moment could have been some grotesque thing that we saw on television. It could have been anything. I don't recall now, but all I was saying is, and it even says at the end of my text, that's all. Disco bloodbath, you know. So this was not a, we were not butting heads in this exchange whatsoever. It was very lighthearted.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 375, which is another document Mr. Rottenborn showed you last week.
Yes.
Could you please remind the jury what's reflected in this photograph? This is from Australia. On March 8th, I believe it was, where after my finger had been, the tip of my finger had been taken off, I began to, I was in such shock, I just started writing on the mirror, on walls, and basically what these were for me to Ms. Heard were reminders of moments in our past where I had caught her, where it was revealed to me, even by her, that she had been caught in lies that she had told me. So that's what these are in reference to. The red, the lipstick that says, call Carly Simon, call Carly Simon, she said it better, babe. In reference to You're So Vain, I am imagining. But that's not, I didn't, the Carly Simon message is not mine, that's Miss Heard's. So let's just break this down a little bit. Who wrote the text that's in black on the mirror?
That would be me.
And what does that say?
She loves, I don't know, like Naked Hollywood or something. An artist of, I don't know what the rest says, but what that is Ms. Heard had come to me and she was seemed to be seriously concerned about how she was being portrayed in Hollywood. She was concerned that because she had done films where there was kind of arbitrary nudity and things of that nature, she had voiced to me that she did not want to be, she didn't want to be looked upon that way in the industry. She wanted to be able to escape the chains of being objectified by the Hollywood system, which is a difficult thing for any woman, certainly, unfortunately. But she asked me, how can I avoid being stereotyped as the beautiful blonde who gets her breasts out or goes naked and has to shtuck people in movies? And I gave her my advice on it, on how to avoid it, which I thought was pretty accurate, and her ambition was stronger than what she received from my advice. Is what it was. My advice that I thought long and hard about, because I did care for her and I did understand. I didn't want her to have to do that. And early on in my career, I was put in a position where, you know, I could have gone on, I could have been just a guy who was on a TV series for a couple of years, and then, you know, what was going to be left of me was would be on lunchboxes and thermoses and posters and teen idol things, and I fought that tooth and nail because I didn't. That's not who I was. So I had experienced something similar in terms of being looked upon as something that you're not, and so I fought against it in the very beginning, and it worked out for me, for a while there, and I was giving her basically the same advice.
Now, Mr. Depp, you said that you did not write this portion that's in red here that says Carly Simon said it. Call Carly Simon, she said it better, babe. Is that right?
Yes, no, that's not mine.
How do you know that it was Miss Heard that wrote that?
Objection, lack of foundation.
Overruled, we can answer it.
There are first it looks like it's trying to match my handwriting, but my handwriting is a lot more of a scribble. And also there's another photograph of this where she went in to make sure that there were, that the red was more prominent. I believe there's also a napkin down there where
Objection,
someone...
Your Honor, lack of foundation. He's referring to exhibits that aren't in evidence and
All right,
have no idea whether they even exist.
I'll sustain the objection now. Next question.
Do you recall whether the lipstick writing was on the mirror when you wrote in the black paint?
No, of course not, no.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you one of the text messages that Mr. Rottenborn showed you concerning the injury to your finger. So if we could please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 398. This is a text message from you to Dr. Kipper that I believe Mr. Rottenborn showed you on cross-examination. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And why are you apologizing to Dr. Kipper in this message?
I believe that at that point in my brain and in my life and in my heart, I was completely and utterly frustrated with how I was living my life, and I had some disagreement with Dr. Kipper, and I was apologizing to him for having gone against his wishes, or gone against his advice, let's say.
What did you mean when you said, I have chopped off my left middle finger as a reminder that I should never cut my right finger off again?
It's my way of dealing with a painful situation. It's my way of dealing with a painful situation where I resort to humor. So I had lost the tip of my right finger, and so I'm saying to him, I've now cut off my left finger to remind me never to cut my right finger off again. That's not, I mean, when you say I got my finger cut off, or I cut my finger off, or this or that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you did it yourself. And again, I'm a guitarist and have been since I was 12, and that was the only piece that I found. And again, why would I start lopping off digits in my 50s? If I, as Mr. Rottenborn suggests, am a kind of, walking tantrum. When I was younger, why wouldn't I just start chopping off fingers or some kind of, why would I ruin the only thing that was really good in my life aside from my children? So when this finger went, the tip of this finger went, the only thing I could think in my mind was, thank God it wasn't the left hand, which is the fret hand. I'm right-handed, so that's the fret. That's where the fretboard is. If you lose a finger from your left hand, I'm not Django Reinhardt, who had only 2 fingers to play with. If I'd have lost a finger from here, I would have had to relearn how to play the guitar all over again. It's just not the case. Even though I say I've chopped my finger off, it's like saying, I bumped into a knife or something. It's not. I'm not admitting to. I think if I was going to admit to someone that I actually chopped my finger off, this text wouldn't be as it is. I think it would have been a long explanation as to why I got to that point. But no, I can't take responsibility for what I now call Little Richard, my chopped finger.
Mr. Depp, at the time that you sent this text message to Dr. Kipper, had you told him what had actually happened to your right finger?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And when did you tell him that?
He was aware of that day, the day that it happened. Malcolm was aware of it. Jerry was aware of it. Stephen was. Everyone was aware of it. And of course, yes, when I went to the doctor, the emergency room, I lied to them because I didn't think it wise to cause a ruckus, implicate Miss Heard, and then have 8 million stories out in the press about how she'd thrown a bottle of vodka at me and it smashed all the bones in the tip of my finger and cut off about, well, it was all sliced down through. You've seen the pictures. It was pretty horrible. It was, and I didn't want to put her in that situation. I didn't want to put any of us in that situation. I didn't want to put the film in that situation. That was why I said it was crushed in an accordion door, and it was only the second doctor who actually told me what he
Objection,
was.
Your Honor, hearsay.
I haven't finished my sentence. How do you know?
I'll overrule for the moment. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Should I? Thank you. It was the emergency room doctor was first. The next day I went to see a specialist, a hand surgeon, and this was still in Australia. And he had recognized that my excuse for the finger being gone.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. What the doctor conveyed to him about his thoughts on the finger injury. That's classic hearsay.
Your Honor, it's in the context of medical treatment.
No, I'll sustain that objection.
Your Honor, I think this is
That's
a
good.
good stopping
All
point.
right.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take our lunch recess. Again, do not do any outside discussions, and don't talk to each other about it, okay? And we'll see you after lunch, okay? If everybody in the courtroom could still be quiet, please. Court is in session. Thank you. All right, so we can take a recess till 2:20. Just for planning purposes, though, I plan to go to 5:30 today since we had a late start. So just to let you know, and I know you plan on having a remote witness, which is fine. Just let us know so we can set that up. But also make sure your remote witness knows that this is a courtroom. I don't expect them to be any outside noises or anything else going on in direct attention. And also if they would know that if there's an objection for them to hold off answering until that's resolved. That goes for all remote witnesses when we get to them, okay? All right. See you at 2:20 then. Thank you.
Thank you.